My parents sold my $3,200 dream camera to fund my sister's extravagant trip to New York. You should have seen the look on their faces when I said, "Pay me back, or I will take legal action." I'm 22, and photography has been my passion since I was a kid. It's not just a hobby. It's a way for me to express myself and connect with others. I've spent years saving from part-time jobs, freelance gigs, and every birthday gift I could convince my relatives to pitch in to build what I called my dream setup: a top-notch camera and lens kit. It wasn't just for fun. I used it to earn money from freelance photography gigs, developing skills in the process. Now, let me introduce my family. My parents are the classic, "we know what's best for you" types, but their idea of best always seems to revolve around my younger sister, Chloe. At 20, Chloe has always been the golden child, the person who believes the world revolves around her. She's obsessed with all the latest fashion trends, and my parents bend over backward to ensure she has every trendy piece she desires, even if it means stepping on me in the process. I grew up in a house where it was clear Chloe came first. Whenever money was tight, I had to be the one to sacrifice. "You're older, you'll handle it better," my mom would say, or "You're a guy, you don't need as much." I figured that was the way of the world, so I tried to avoid conflict, thinking, whatever, I'll just work harder for what I want. I didn't resent Chloe. I just focused on my goals, staying out of their way. Let's fast forward to a few weeks ago. It was a regular Saturday when I went out with my friend, Michael. He's my best buddy and the guy I shoot most of my photography with. We were brainstorming ideas for a local art show we wanted to participate in, excitement bubbling up about our competition. I returned home that afternoon, pumped up and ready to edit some photos when I discovered the surprise. My desk was empty. My camera gear gone. My lenses and my tripod, everything was missing. For a second, I thought I had been robbed. But as I scanned the house, everything else looked untouched. I raced downstairs to find my parents casually chatting over coffee, completely unconcerned, like it was just another day. "Hey, where's my camera?" I inquired, trying not to panic. "Sold it," my mom replied, not bothering to look up from her phone. "Wait, what? Sold it? What do you mean you sold it?" I felt disbelief creeping up. Dad sighed, his typical dismissal creeping in. Chloe needed the money for her trip to New York. It was just sitting there, and we didn't have it to spare. Just sitting there? I echoed, frustration bubbling over. That camera wasn't just a luxury. It's my livelihood. How am I supposed to take on freelance gigs now? What trip are you talking about that's more important than my work? Mom snapped back. "Don't take that tone. We did what was best for the family. Chloe has opportunities we can't just overlook. You can always save up for a new one." "Save up? Do you realize how long it took to get that set up? You have no idea how much I poured into my photography." I shot back, my voice rising. Dad leaned back, looking annoyed. "Freelance photography isn't a real job. You spend more time taking pictures than working anyway." Their dismissal stung more than I cared to admit. Sure, photography was part of my life, but that kit was how I built my identity and earned my money. I stormed back to my room, anger boiling over. I texted Michael, sharing what had happened. He was equally shocked. "Dude, that's crazy. Did they even ask you?" "Nope. Sold it to fund Chloe's trip," I replied, a mix of disbelief and bitterness in my words. "She's such a spoiled brat." "Maybe next time hide your gear," he suggested, an undercurrent of sympathy in his tone. "Yeah, hindsight is 20/20, I shrugged, but at that moment, all I could think was how years of effort had been taken away so casually, and my family didn't care. That night, I decided to confront Chloe. I walked into her room, and there she was, scrolling through her phone, a new outfit spread out across her bed. "Do you have any idea what Mom and Dad did to buy all your fancy clothes?" I asked, leaning against the doorframe, bitterness gnawing at me. She barely looked up. "What are you talking about?" "They sold my camera gear, my $3,200 setup. Gone just so you could fund your trip," I snapped, tension thick in the air. Chloe just shrugged, still oblivious. "So? It's just a camera. You could always get another one. You act like it's nothing," I exclaimed. That kit was years of savings, work, and passion. It was my future, not my problem, Chloe said, flipping her hair over her shoulder. "It's not like I told them to sell it. They made the decision. You influenced their decision, didn't you? You knew perfectly well what would happen." I pressed, feeling my anger rise. Chloe rolled her eyes, her tone defensive. "Oh, please. Don't act like I control Mom and Dad. If they sold your precious camera, it's because they thought it was best, which clearly it was. You think my dreams are just your family's life hacks? I shot back, frustration seeping through every word. Wow, so dramatic. Maybe if you weren't so obsessed with your photography, you'd get that there are bigger things to worry about, she retorted, a smug smile crossing her face. I have a reputation to maintain. You're just sitting there, taking pictures all day. I couldn't take any more and stormed out, knowing all too well talking to Chloe was a waste of breath. Every opportunity had been handed to her while I fought for my own. The next few days dragged on, each one filled with tension. My parents acted like nothing had happened, while Chloe paraded around, flaunting her new outfits. Every time I thought about how they casually sold something precious to me, my frustration mounted. Michael kept urging me to take action, checking in frequently. You have to do something, man. Don't just let them treat you like this. I know. I sighed, conflicted about what to do. Suppressing this wasn't an option, but confronting them seemed daunting. Days turned into a rising storm of anger within me. I avoided my parents as much as possible, but couldn't escape the thoughts swirling in my mind. I felt like a ghost in my own home, especially when Chloe laughed and strutted around, completely clueless about my passion. One late night, after another frustrating day of getting by on my old DSLR, I knew I needed to confront them. I gathered any proof I could find, receipts from when I bought the camera, photos of the setup I'd put together, and even clips of earlier freelance work. I was going to show them that this wasn't just a financial issue, it was about respect. On the day of the confrontation, I took a deep breath and decided to catch my parents at dinner. Everyone gathered at the table, with Chloe scrolling through her phone, oblivious to how much tension was in the air. Mom, Dad, we need to talk, I said, placing my folder of evidence on the table. They both glanced at me with curiosity. Dad raised an eyebrow. About what? The $3,200 from selling my camera. You need to pay me back, I said firmly, maintaining eye contact. Mom leaned back, her face a mix of confusion and defiance. We already explained that we thought it was the best choice for the family. Chloe has important opportunities, and you have always been independent. Independent? I retorted. You just took my future away without asking, assuming I wouldn't care. That's theft. Dad glared. Watch your tone. You're living under our roof. Everything in this house belongs to us. No, Dad, it doesn't work like that, I replied, keeping my voice steady even though I felt like screaming. I earned every cent of that gear. Here's a receipt showing I paid for it with my own money. What you did was wrong. Mom gasped. How dare you accuse us of wrongdoing? We did this for Chloe. So you keep saying? I snapped. But here's the reality. I'm the one who sacrificed for years while she got everything handed to her. Chloe interjected. Oh my God, are you seriously going on about this? You're pathetic. I bit my tongue, trying not to react to her childish retort. What's pathetic? I said, is the fact that you've exploited the hard work of others to bolster your lifestyle. The words seemed to hit their mark, but instead of breaking through, there was only friction. I glanced at my parents, who now wore expressions of irritation rather than understanding. Fine, we'll pay you back, Dad finally conceded, his voice sharp, but don't expect anything else from us. Good, because I've already been on my own for too long, I replied, my voice heavy with bitterness. I refused to be treated as a doormat anymore. To my surprise, they handed me cash the next day, $3, $200, tight-lipped and angry. Money in hand, I reached out to the buyer of my camera kit. They agreed to sell it back, and picking it up felt like reclaiming a part of my identity. Yet, I knew things wouldn't be the same after this. Update 1. A week passed, and that familiar tension returned. I was grateful for the camera and regained some of my freelance work, but I needed a permanent change. The idea of moving out tugged at my mind. Dude, you really should consider getting your own place, Michael suggested one evening, sensing my restlessness. I know, I admitted. It's just funds and logistics. Michael nodded. Have you thought about doubling down on your freelance work? You could even start streaming your photo edits live. That struck a chord. I'd always wanted to start streaming my editing process, but I hadn't had the time. Now, with my gear back and a sense of purpose, it seemed like the right time. I spent the next few days researching apartments in the area. After hours of sifting through listings, I found a cozy studio nearby. Granted, it was small, but it was affordable and close enough to town for me to feel a sense of community. I called the landlord, and we set up a tour. Walking into the apartment, I felt a flicker of excitement. It wasn't fancy, but it had potential. I signed the lease the same day. I was officially ready to escape the chaos. Next came the challenge of moving my stuff without tipping off my family. I didn't want to deal with their guilt trips or drama, so I began stashing away my belongings at Michael's place in small increments until the final move. I dove headfirst into my freelance work and streaming. I updated my portfolio, connected with past clients, and started advertising my services online. To my surprise, the response was overwhelmingly positive. I lined up enough work to cover my first month's rent before my move. 2 nights before I officially moved out, I sensed the tension growing back home. My mom knocked on my door, interrupting my packing. "Can we talk?" she asked, stepping in uninvited. I braced myself for a confrontation. "I don't really have anything to say," I muttered, shuffling through my belongings. "Just hear me out," she insisted, taking a seat on the edge of my bed. "You have to understand we didn't sell your camera to hurt you. Of course you thought it was best for Chloe, huh?" I replied, folding my arms tightly. "Not exactly," she stumbled. "Chloe suggested it, and we thought she had a point." "Chloe suggested it," I echoed, anger bubbling up. "So, she's the reason you sold my gear without even asking?" Mom fidgeted, eyes darting away. "We thought it would be okay. You have always been independent. You wouldn't mind." "Mind? You sold something essential to me because she wanted a new trip," I burst out. She left without another word, and I felt my frustration reach new heights. Update 2. The day of the move rolled around quickly. I loaded my belongings into my car, leaving a note on the kitchen counter, expressing that I needed space. It wasn't dramatic, just a simple statement about my goal to focus on myself. Michael showed up to help me unload at my new apartment, and as I set up my gear, I felt the excitement of independence wash over me. That night, I went live for the first time in ages. My viewer count was modest, but within that space, I felt a sense of freedom and acceptance I hadn't experienced in forever. Days flew by filled with freelance gigs and adjustments to my new routine. But despite the excitement, doubt lingered. Was my family even noticing the absence? Would they care? Mid-afternoon, my phone rang with my mom's number. I ignored it, but she left a voicemail that boiled my blood. "You could have at least told us you were leaving. We're disappointed in how you've handled this." I deleted it without listening all the way, declining several more messages filled with guilt tripping. Then came a text from Chloe. "OMG, so you left? Guess you couldn't handle it. Mom is freaking out, just thought you'd like to know." That typical overdramatic response was exactly what I expected. I focused on my stream for the evening instead, building my audience, feeling accomplished. Weeks rolled on, and my freelance work blossomed along with my streaming. But the guilt messages from my parents continued, alternating between desperation and attempts to guilt trip me into returning. "You've really let your mother down," read one of the texts. Eventually, Michael suggested, "Why don't you tell them how you feel?" I hadn't updated my parents directly since I moved out. Something held me back, the fear of their disappointment or manipulation. But maybe confronting them would help me secure my peace. With a heavy heart, I typed a message. "I'm not coming back. This isn't about being selfish. I can't keep living under the weight of your expectations anymore." Their responses came as expected, a mix of anger and denial. My mom fumed about how ungrateful I was, while Dad stated, "You'll regret this someday." But I didn't feel fear. Instead, I felt liberation. This was my moment of standing firm for myself. As the weeks went by, I settled into my life. My parenting environment remained a constant storm outside my window, but I'd finally built something of my own. While scrolling through social media one evening, I stumbled on Chloe's post. "So thankful for parents who always put me first. #blessed. Rolling my eyes, I focused on my streaming setup. I'd long given up seeking validation from them. That was their world, a superficial image I no longer cared about. One day, a family friend bumped into me while I was out. "I heard you moved out. Your parents are struggling without you," they said, lifting an eyebrow. "Struggling? How?" I asked, intrigued. "They've been asking everyone for help since they overextended themselves for Chloe. They thought you'd still pitch in." That conversation spun my head. They were right. All the years of prioritizing Chloe's luxuries had caused a financial drought. "That's unfortunate," I said, taking a sip of my coffee. "But I'm doing great. Over time, I cut down on keeping tabs with my family. Even Chloe remained silent, waiting for me to cave, but I felt strong. One afternoon when Michael visited, I told him about the family-friends conversation. You know what? They've brought it on themselves, I said. Exactly, he added. You don't have to go back. You're doing fine. Life continued to flourish. My confidence grew with each gig I landed, each stream filled with new friends and support. I realized less about my family mattered to me. They didn't define my worth anymore. And that choice felt powerful. Now I'm building a path where my hard work is valued, where I can focus on my passions without compromise. To anyone who's in a similar situation, remember, you don't have to stay where you're not respected, and breaking free is about choosing yourself. Embrace your journey. Your choice is what matters most.